What's happening, Andy? Here I am joined today by Mike Harris of Elatec. How are you, Mike?
Good. How you doing, Andy?
I am great. What's happening? You are new to our audience, and thought we would take this opportunity to showcase you and talk, find out a little bit about what you do for Elatec, and then had to have a little bit of a conversation about some of the technology and some of the things you're working on. So, with that, let's jump into it. Tell us a little bit about who is Elatec and what do you do for them?
Sure. And thanks again, Andy, for having me. I'm happy to be here. So Elatec, as probably most of the audiences are already aware, is an RFID reader manufacturer. We specialize in universal readers that can read pretty much all of the credentials out there with a tremendous amount of configurability and adaptability for specific customers and specific situations. I am our senior business development manager, and I've been at Elatec for just over 2 years. And I've just recently been sort of pointed at the print industry, so the kind of the print space is fairly new to me, and I'm really enjoying kind of digging into this.
Well, welcome to the print world. It's a very interesting community, especially in the U.S. The
It is.
dealers, the resellers, a lot of legacy, a lot of family businesses. They do work with companies and they tend to stay with them for long periods, a lot of relationships. So you guys are very familiar to these resellers with respect to RFID and when it comes to print. But we're going to talk a little bit more about security today. That's something that you've been focused on. I feel like this is a great time to do it. We're on the heels of what I'm understanding is the biggest hack in world history. Most people's social security numbers are probably now on there. I went and went through a website last night looking at all of the stuff I had exposed, and there's a lot out there. So it is something to be worried about, and this is something Elatec plays into. But my audience may not, really know them for that. So let's maybe take a step back and talk about some of the things you guys do in security and how this might be beneficial to office equipment resellers in their world.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, like you said, not only was there just this announcement of this huge hack, and everybody's social security numbers were compromised. Where there was a big MGM casino hack. Last year. There's almost every other day there's a headline about some sort of new cybersecurity compromise, and the increase in ransomware attacks, right? So there's hackers that go after companies with sensitive information that they want to try to get their hands on. But there's also these ransomware actors that can just use third-party tools and just go in and encrypt anybody's stuff and then charge them a fee to get it back. So you don't have to be somebody important to be on the radar of hackers, right? So I think that's an important point. And something that Elatec has been involved in, and I've been involved in, is using RFID, specifically using the ID badges or the mobile credentials that employees already have as a means of authenticating or as a means of a second factor or multi-factor authentication for logging into PCs and workstations and apps and things like that. I mean, as we've explored that and tried to understand how to go to market, it really made sense to do that with the print channel. And the reason for that is that these dealers, a lot of them, you're already they may not think of themselves as cybersecurity providers, but that's exactly what these print solutions are. And especially with many of them moving now into managed services, it's going to become even more important for dealers to understand that they really are, partners with the IT groups for cybersecurity for their end users, right? And they're already in there. They're already having those conversations. They've got the ear of the end customers, already supplying them with lockdown endpoints with various means of print security. So it's as the print channel is looking for other avenues to go into that complement and synergize with what they have today, we see authentication via RFID as a great opportunity for them, right? Uh, the the challenge is outside of certain industries that have maybe been using a solution like this, like healthcare. A lot of the rest of the world is new to multi-factor authentication, and they're either unaware of it or they're becoming familiar with it through phone-based apps.
Well,
So
anyone who's
yeah,
got a mobile phone now knows about it, right? And
yeah,
it
yeah.
started as that annoying thing until maybe you start realizing how it's probably saved you a little bit along the way. So I didn't like it at first. Now I'm a big fan of it. I understand it. I get it. It's funny you mentioned that MGM attack. A lot of us and a lot of you watching this video were probably in Las Vegas last year trying to check into an MGM hotel that was unfortunately dealing with that while we were there. Which the irony of standing in the line for 3 hours with maybe 300 managed service providers standing there thinking like we could help, we could probably solve this. We could, everybody had an idea of what they might do while we were standing there in line. It was terrible though, because it just, it cripples companies. And
Hmm. Hmm.
um, you mentioned getting on the hackers' radar. I think what we're definitely seeing is the ones that make the news are the MGMs and this big Social Security one, right? The ones that don't make the news are the small and medium businesses, which you kind
Yep.
of alluded to there. And the numbers game. I did another interview with an expert, and we talked about this that they don't care anymore that they don't have to put the effort in. And if you're gonna have to put effort in, you're gonna want the big home run, right? But if everything is automated and you're using chat bots and you're using other bots to AI to craft these things, it's real easy and real quick to do for small, medium-sized businesses to target them. And it's a numbers game, right? So if you can get a couple hundred of those at smaller amounts of ransomware, chances are they're less protected. Chances are they don't have anyone on staff a lot of times unless they're more the M of that SMB, right, or the higher end of the M. And so they're relying on outside services. So going back to what you talked about with office equipment resellers, you're right. It doesn't matter whether they're offering managed services or not. Even when you're just selling printers, if you're not in managed services, we interviewed a great dealer yesterday. He's got locations all over California. He really doesn't get into managed services too much, but he is playing in that, like it or not, because he's got to secure those printers. He's got to update them. I guarantee you, he sells RFID technology with those printers because it's just such an easy sale, and customers have been asking for it and using it for so many years. So, this is sort of just the next step. So this MFA, multi-factor authentication. So let's take a minute, and maybe you could just sort of run through how that works, and for people who aren't connecting the dots and oh yeah, that's the thing I've been doing on my phone. How does that work? Why does that help? And why is this something that they really need to make sure their customers are doing now?
Sure, sure. So multi-factor authentication, which is similar to, but not the same as two-factor authentication, which we'll get into a second, really means you're authenticating yourself with two or more factors. And to be true multi-factor, they have to be distinct factors. So you've basically got three categories, right? You've got knowledge, something you know. You've got possession, something you own, and you've got inherence, something that you are. So something you know could be a password or a PIN. Something you own could be your mobile phone or an RFID badge, and something you are could be your retina or your thumbprint. So combining any two of those that are truly distinct gives you multi-factor authentication, and that just even having two-factor, even if it's both things that that are two different things, I think Google has estimated 88 to 90% of untargeted ransomware attacks can be prevented just with that, right?
Mm.
So those are kind of the basics of what it is, and that's people are maybe accustomed to using that today for a specific app or before they complete a banking transaction with their phone. But what we're talking about here is locking down your company's computer systems with that type of authentication. So you don't just sit down and type in your password to get into Windows, say. You have to do an MFA process just to get in. And a lot more companies that wouldn't have thought they'd be doing that are doing that now. And to tie that back into the MGM hack, MGM got hacked through a vendor, right? It was someone didn't go into MGM directly. Same thing with Target years ago. There was a big hack. They went in. And in the print world, the print OEMs, for example, require many of their customers, as do many other types of OEMs, or sorry, their vendors, to have cyber insurance. And that's a key piece of this. And that's a key piece of the SMBs is so many SMBs are not aware of cyber insurance. They're not aware that they need it. And they may not be aware that whatever supply chain they are a part of may require them to have it. And the painful lesson that you learn right away if your company suddenly has to implement cyber insurance is that premiums are astronomical if you do not have multi-factor authentication in place for accessing your systems. And that actually happened with Elatec. So for a year, we had to pay these premiums until we got the full system in place, and then year two dropped dramatically once we implemented an MFA implementation. So again, even though in healthcare and finance and some of these regulated industries, they already have minimum cybersecurity requirements where they may already be doing MFA. It's coming everywhere for every office, every application, every company.
So there's really two pieces of this. One is your own dealership, your own office, right? You want to be on board with this. You want to have the latest, I guess, sanctioned approach, the latest way of handling, trying to combat cyber attacks, and so this is a way to do it. But I had not heard the part about the cyber insurance. So this is really
Mm-hmm.
something. If it doesn't motivate you just to protect yourself, it should motivate you that you're going to save a considerable amount of money payments on your insurance on your monthly premium. So.
Yep.
And then this is something that once you understand a little better, you can take this out to your customers. Now, how is this something that Elatec would be involved in? How do you guys facilitate this or help dealers bring this out to their customers?
Sure. So what we do is we will work with and vet um, solution providers for multi-factor authentication, for single sign-on, other pieces and components that can go with that. And then we will bundle that and take it as an offering to a channel. And the one thing I wanted to say, part of why we're doing this and why we believe in this is, a lot of people that are doing some of this MFA that we're talking about today, that are being forced through cyber insurance or whatever, they're used to using these, right? They're used to using this. Uh, you type in your password and then something happens on your phone, and if it's a code that you then have to type in, just to be clear, that's still something right? That's still something that can be socially engineered to phish. So it's not MFA, it's 2FA. There are other apps where you have to interact with the app, right, to push a button then to get access. But here's the thing. You're still typing in passwords. Employee managed passwords are not secure, right? If IT managers had their way, we'd be typing 37-digit character passwords with, the full ASCII set, right? It's not reasonable, and if you did, then people would write it down, which defeats the purpose. So what we've learned is with these RFID solutions, it takes the employee managed password out of the equation. And so what happens is, versus today where you type in a password, you may or may not, may mistype it, may not, maybe forget it, and then you have to go and authenticate on your phone, and you're paying for the solution. You're adding a little bit of time and effort in every time you want to log in. But if you've got an ID badge or a mobile credential on your phone, and you just wave it over an RFID reader and then type in a 4-digit PIN, you're getting in faster than you were with that password. You're dramatically more secure than the phone-based apps because it's true phishing resistant, which aside the term. So it's paying for itself. So it's kind of like customers need this. Dealers are a perfect opportunity to provide it, and it actually in the long run is going to save customers time and effort and improved user experience over whatever it is they're using today or will be using.
So it sounds like a bit of a complicated sale until you start thinking about the fact that a lot of these customers already have the RFID cards, right? So you're
Mm-hmm.
you're already in the door with a lot of these customers. And how does that work in that situation? Is this an added sell on? Is this just, hey, we've got some additional services we can add into these cards you already have and these readers you already own? Is this sort of just an upgrade and then suddenly you're in their strategy? How do you guys play into that?
So the beautiful thing about this is there are solutions out there, and of course these are the ones that we have partnered with that are really designed around the credential, around the RFID, right? Rather than just as an afterthought. So they're designed in such a way that is whatever credential you have today, whether it's Prox or whether it's something, high security like MyFair, Desfire, or iClass, it doesn't matter as long as you've already got an RFID badge or mobile credential and you've got a reader somewhere in your building, that you purchased that can read that, which would be the Elatec reader on a printer, right? You've already got the technology you need. So it's usually a pretty simple install, with an IT admin on the software side. And then you've got to add additional readers to your laptops or your PCs, that's the hard sell, right? Because companies are like, oh man, I gotta, but what they don't think about again is,
It's
you're
cheaper than paying the ransomware.
Yeah, it's like you may be like, oh, my employees already have phones, but it's again, you're adding more time and effort into your login when you're using a phone, and it's not phishing resistant, right? So the cyber security infrastructure, I always bubble that one. It's the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, for the U.S. They recommend what's called phishing resistant means of MFA. And basically, a hardware based version like a FIDO token or an RFID are the true phishing resistant versions. The phones, even the best versions, always have some ability of being phished. So your top security levels, and like I said, so yeah, you use an RFID reader. You're not kind of used to doing that, but you didn't used to be using to have your phone to log into your computer either, right? You've got a high security solution, uses credentials and readers that are already being managed by your IT group. They're known entities, and it saves you time and money in the long run.
It's funny because you mentioned you mentioned the sticky notes with the passwords, and I can't tell you how many, and we're talking about companies that sell technology and are selling cyber, right? Selling security. And I've been in so many of these places where once you get out of, the sales and the engineering areas, and then you're in those back rooms with the admin, that's when you start seeing those. And I've seen them within the last year or two. I've been in probably over a dozen, maybe almost 2 dozen dealer site visits, just visiting with dealers, and it's the same everywhere you go. Almost everywhere they have these sticky notes. So, if you're watching this video, take a walk back to your admin area and maybe have them take those sticky notes down because you're just a bad employee away from having a nightmare. I mean, it just you look at sticky notes that say password on them, right? So it's something that it's funny to me that when you see that in this industry, it's like, we all should know better.
Yeah,
So moving forward, these resellers, this is a great opportunity for them. And so, how do they go about getting more involved in this? Is this just a call Ralden? He's the guy on this? He's obviously the dealer, a big dealer contact for them. Are you another source of contact now that you're into the print group? What's
absolutely.
what's the proper way to get into this?
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to Elatec, and we'll be happy to quickly drill down to what's the right option for whoever wants to work with us
Well, and chances
or our
are they're
partners.
already working with you, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you work with a lot of the your partners with ACDI, I think
yep,
EcoPrintQ,
yep,
with a whole bunch of others as well. I think there's not a lot of RFID choices in this industry, and this is a biggie. You guys are a
yeah,
real big one.
yeah.
Um, you make some of this stuff in the US. You make a lot of it in Germany as well. I've been out there a bunch of times. Oktoberfest is coming up. On a side note, are you going? Are you going to be there this
No,
year?
I'm not going to be there this year.
Well, your liver will thank you.
Yeah,
It's a fantastic event. I don't think I'm going to be at this one, but I've been to many of them in the past. It's a phenomenal event that you guys throw for your mostly for your European partners and customers. But back to this. So we will be at BTA coming up. There's a few other shows. Where do you think we might be seeing Elatec over the next few months? Any conferences that you know of, or?
well, I believe we are considering the BTA fall. Hasn't been firmed up yet, but that would be a good spot.
Okay, yep, I'll be speaking at that, so we'll look for you there. Obviously, make sure we get some pictures of your people out there working hard and selling these readers. But this was really interesting. You work with something all the time. You see it in one sort of light, and you don't really, I guess, think about some of the other areas that you might be able to take this product, this technology. Eye opener for me last year, the last couple of years when I was visiting with you. You guys really started as a print company, RFID print company, and it blew my mind last time I was there when I was seeing all the things you're working on. And I wouldn't say print is a small piece of it now, but you can see print is funding your growth into other areas. The future city
Yeah,
stuff I can see, obviously from that picture behind you. Future city stuff was fascinating. I saw some great EV charging examples that you guys did. What are some other areas that Elatec has moved into over the last few years, just to just showcase maybe, the growth that you've had?
yeah, sure. Well, so that's and that ties into this idea of the universal credential, right? So the physical access control industry is undergoing a paradigm shift where everyone, because of the market event, is moving towards more interoperability. So you're going to get to the day where you can have your physical credential, your badge, or preferably on your phone, and you use that to get into the gate at the parking lot. You use that to initiate a charging session at your workplace EV charger, right? Use it to get in the door or the turnstile. Use it to release your print job at the printer. You use it to log into your PC for MFA. You use it to do a closed loop payment at the cafeteria. You use it to on an IT locker to get out your IT equipment or your PPE gear if you're at that type of company, or tools from a tool cabinet on a manufacturing floor. You use your badge to authenticate. You can see a lot more of that in manufacturing facilities now with Industry 4.0 and connected equipment. Like they want to make sure they know who's using what and when. But also you'll see our readers embedded in place that you might not know about. You might be using a treadmill at a gym and using your Apple Watch to essentially authenticate at the treadmill, and then it pulls up your workouts and your profiles and knows you, right? We're in places like that you wouldn't even know because we're kind of behind the curtain, so to speak. So
That is amazing. Like you
there's
guys
a lot of stuff going on.
really have grown into a completely different company, and it's been fun watching because like I said, you started as just very focused, a very small company, and I've seen you move into multiple locations, bigger and bigger. Every time you move into one, you outgrow it immediately. So this has been great though, super helpful. I appreciate you taking the time to come on. This I think super really beneficial for our viewers. Any last shout outs? Anything you want to leave us with?
No, I think that's it. Just again, I appreciate the opportunity as well, and really glad to be on here.
Great. Well, thanks for stopping by. We will see your team hopefully at BTA, and if not somewhere, I'm sure at one of the conferences coming up this fall. Mike
Yep.
Harris, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you, Andy. Thanks. Bye.
Bye bye.